This is my ongoing series of modeling everyday objects for a Blender challenge, and I've moved ahead quite a bit, I guess you'd say, and modeled a bunch of other stuff and done some texturing. We all started off with that broom, and I just felt it didn't actually fit the scene anymore, and so I've gotten rid of it. But I have moved ahead, and over the next couple of videos I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I've done. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how I made the procedural wooden panels. And if they look a little unreal, that's on purpose. I want it to look fantasy-like. Okay, so I'll show you how I did that in the stuccoed wall, and how I did the bottles to catch up on things like the crackers. And in the meantime, I'll continue to add objects to the scene. So hopefully you're going to watch the series and maybe try to model some of this. Alright, so over here in Blender we're going to create a wall by just bringing in a plane. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to press S2, scale it twice, look from the front, RX90, and I'll bring it up. And that is going to be our wall. And if you want to just do it sort of like that, halfway down, maybe put some stucco up here or wallpaper, we have this. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to press U, unwrap. So we got that part unwrapped. Alright, let's go into the shading tab. And I've got this part here. Let's actually make a material for that. And we'll call this wood. It will be procedural wood. And we'll have this as a separate section. So I'll do wood, assign that, and another material on the same thing. So I got to create another material slot. And maybe I'll call this stucco. We'll do that in the next video, and we'll assign that. Alright, so I can deselect if I want wood, and I can press select, so everything works. Okay, so we're on the wood. Okay, so here is what we're going to do. I'm going to follow this diagram here so I remember everything I need to do, but essentially it's going to be a texture coordinate coming out of UV into a mapping node. There is going to be a change right here to create the wood. Of course, we'll be using the wave texture for the wood itself, with some values here which you may want to change around, some colors here going into the base color. All of this stuff is pretty much standard. I may have dropped the roughness. You could do more stuff here if you wanted to. And then to get the lines to make it look like panels is this row right here. Again, UV going into mapping. Let's have a look down here. There are some values to change. All right, going into a wave texture again, that's a little different from this one. A color ramp, and you'll notice things are very close together down here for that, and a bump. All right, so let's have a look at doing that. All right, so we're going to come in here. We're going to need a texture, a wave texture. I'm going to come back to there. With that, I'm going to press Control T to bring in the texture coordinate mapping node. I'm going to connect UV to the vector there, and we're going to come into a mix RGB, coming from the color of the wave texture into the fact, so that we have these colors exposed to do that. So color, mix RGB, take the color into the fact, and right away let's do some color. So what do we want here? We want sort of in this case sort of an orangey brown to a darker one. So let's see if we can sort of emulate that. Maybe we use that one, and we'll try something like that. All right, and that's going to go into the base color. So let's see what that gives us, and we're already on our way. So we're going to come back to the wave texture here and make some adjustments here. All right, so I'm using a scale of about 1.2, distortion 25, 2 and 1. So 1.2, 25, 2 and 1. Let's try that. 1.2, 25, 2 and 1. We're starting to get that wavy pattern, and 0.5. Okay, so that's all the same. Now to get that to really curve, we're going to need this 20. Let's try that, 20 in the X scale. And now I have this, and it already looks like fake wood, like a cheap video game, and that's kind of what we're going for. All right, so we're good so far. Let's go on to the next line. Let's grab this stuff, Shift D to duplicate it down. All right, and we're going to make some changes. We're going to add a color ramp. So converter color ramp down here. And that's going to feed into a vector bump. So Shift A, vector bump. right there, color into height. Before I plug that in, let's start looking at this color ramp. So like I said, you can see that it's very close together. I've got the black on the left and the white almost on top of it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to slide this way, way down. And I'll show you what happens as we bring them closer. I'll have to come closer than that. Let's go ahead and change these wave texture values. Again, your mileage may differ. So I've got 1 for the scale, 0, 2, 1. There may not be. Okay, so 1 for the scale, no distortion, 2, 1. Everything else is the same. But this stuff, I'm going to make a change here. All right. So zeros and zeros, 4.5 on the X. Let's just try plugging. Let's try plugging in 4.5, and let's plug this in and see what happens into the normal. All right, we have some lines. All right, so let's watch this while I play with this. First of all, I'm going to pull it out. All right, you see them sort of separating. Pull them in nice and tight. Yeah, as tight as you want, depending on the look that you're going for. And we have what looks like those panels. So depending on your lighting, you can get a different effect. Let's actually bring the roughness down just a little bit, just to make it look a little nicer. I mean, this is not bad for a cartoon kind of look. You put a piece of trim up here and you do some stucco up there, and you got yourself a little cartoon room. Okay, so experiment with the colors, experiment with the values in the wave texture in order to get your own cartoon wood panel.